In our previous video, we discussed about what are the different problems or history of JavaScript, where it actually was written or why JavaScript came into picture and how it evolved, where we are using it in both front-end and back-end applications. It means the usage of JavaScript has been increased lot, but the fundamental reason why it was built and why what stage or what scale we are using today has changed drastically, right? So that's the reason why JavaScript has a lot of problems in it. And when you are building huge applications right now, you have utilized the power. JavaScript is powerful, but when a language is, I would say JavaScript as an incomplete language, because it doesn't give all the things which are needed for us. It just gives a program to run in an efficient manner, but that's not really needed for, not sufficient for any programming language, because it has to be syntax oriented. It has to give you errors. It has to give you all warnings which are needed to build a better product, right? In that aspect, JavaScript lacks. And in our previous video, we have clearly seen in the different scenarios where the if conditions and how the type coercion happen and how automatic type conversions happen, and you never know what type you're dealing with, and you're trying to access variables which are not present, and during the runtime the data might change, and instead of throwing an error, you are actually parsing it, and due to that your entire code might go into other blocks where you are entirely disturbed, right? In such scenarios we can bring in TypeScript, right? So we need to understand one pretty straightforward thing is that yes, TypeScript solves all of those purposes, and it gives you a clear idea on what code you're writing, right? So definitely TypeScript is solving all of those problems which are present in JavaScript. And also apart from that, TypeScript has some additional features. When I discussed about the TypeScript, what is TypeScript, we understood that TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, right? So why you need to use TypeScript, what are the different advantages of using TypeScript, we will all we'll look into it once, right? So let me open a terminal, let me open a code editor, right? First thing, it gives you the static type checking, which is very important, which we have seen. So if you don't know what type of data you are dealing with, then your code is totally out of your control, I would say, or you don't know what is happening. You have written the code, but you don't know what is happening. I don't want anyone to be in that stage, especially, right? So static type checking is really important. And apart from that, what really I love about TypeScript is that it's an open source. First thing, it's free, open source, free, right? It's free, and you have when I personally used to develop applications in JavaScript and in TypeScript, what I found is that TypeScript's development is a lot easier. So developing applications in TypeScript is a lot easier because you have well support for of IDEs and plugins, right? What else do you need? So you have good practices, best practices, what needs to be followed. So if somebody is giving a book and read and do your thing, then it is definitely easy. Instead of going into the internet, finding out, researching yourself, it's like a spoon feeding for TypeScript. You have everything available to you, right? And one of the best thing which I personally felt when I'm reviewing others' code, or when I'm going back and looking at my code after a couple of days, what I felt is code is pretty much readable. So readability, TypeScript increases the readability a lot. So as you grow, one thing which you definitely understand is it is not just writing the efficient code is important, but what is more important than writing an efficient code is that writing a code which is readable and understandable by anyone. Because don't think you will be working in the same company over 10 or 20 or your lifetime. People change and they come, so they need to understand it. So the quality of code which you write is really matters to everyone. And as a when you are going in a new organization, if somebody writes a very bad code which is not at all readable, then that's a big problem. So JavaScript is a very big pain when you talk about readability, it gives you efficient coding standards. If you can write a very, very good, efficient, maybe less time complexity application, but the readability is gone for a toss in TypeScript, in JavaScript. But TypeScript increases the readability a lot, right? And also, why TypeScript is a superset, right? TypeScript is a superset. So the main thing is that the advantage of using TypeScript is that you have all the features, all the powers which obviously JavaScript has, and along with that, you also have the powers of other ECMAScript features like ES6 and ES5. So it means technically you are having new features of JavaScript and also new features of ECMAScript with you, plus more productivity, because your development speed is now a lot faster than when compared to JavaScript. So TypeScript has more benefits, obviously, in terms of feature wise when compared to JavaScript. So that's one more reason why I would choose TypeScript over JavaScript, right? And also one major thing which I understood is that, or which I've personally realized, is that debugging is a lot easier in TypeScript than JavaScript. The reason is obvious, right? The reason is obvious. You know what you have written and what the code is going to perform. But in JavaScript, we saw in the previous video that what you wrote and what your intention was, it is completely changed during the runtime. So who would debug such a application when the runtime is, the application itself is deciding on its own, converting types, whatever it is, right? So debugging is a lot easier in TypeScript, and that's one of the biggest reason even I would recommend any of you. On the code readability and debugging is a lot easier, and it is also combined, aligned, so with ECMAScript. So whenever there is a new version released in ECMAScript, so automatically we have the new features released in TypeScript as well. So that's one of the compatibility, or whatever you say, the dependency on that. We don't have to take care of anything. So, and it saves a lot of time for developers when you work with TypeScript, right? So also we have other important concepts like object-oriented programming. So here you define classes and everything, which are again features of JavaScript. But what I would say is in TypeScript has interfaces, generics. So the object-oriented programming language features like abstract classes, inheritance, interfaces, generics. So if I note down all of these: interfaces, classes, abstract classes, and then we have singleton. We can define a lot of other features as well, like singleton and all of these, and you have generics. So all of these are now, it is not a new one to you, because you know object-oriented programming language right from your childhood. You learned it in college. So all of those concepts are really, and it is aligned with what you have learned in your college days, right? So that's one of the important thing. And we also have function overloading concepts like functional overloading, private, public accessories, access modifiers. So all of these are present, which I really enjoy writing a TypeScript code if the application size is good enough. Like if I want to quickly show some POC, I would never choose TypeScript. Who the hell would choose TypeScript? So, but if you're working on a big project, definitely. Even Angular has implemented it. So everything in Angular is right now in TypeScript, because Angular is an enterprise level application builder. Like you use Angular when you want to build enterprise level applications. So now any company obviously would think that their application of their company would grow. So who doesn't want any of their company to grow, right? So in that aspect, you go with TypeScript. But if you are building a small POC or small project, then JavaScript is fine, because TypeScript adds complexities, adds a lot of compile time phases and all of this. Then why do you want to make your application complex, right? In the same way, it gives you compile time errors, which is also a good thing. And the amount of code which you write is bit more in TypeScript, because obviously you're defining a very good structure, and also the program pattern is also structural programming. So how do you define classes and all that? Structural programming is the foundation for TypeScript. So you define the structure, how it should flow, how everything should work, and how you can connect with the pieces and everything. And the compatibility, as I said, the ECMAScript compatibility is obviously there, and you have the JavaScript or Node.js modular system available with you. So technically you're not missing any feature that you have in JavaScript. And the other thing is you also have the option to compile. So now when I said compile, basically it compiles to some code, right? Machine level or whatever code. So you have option to compile to whatever ECMAScript version. So let's say I built a React based application in TypeScript, and I know my application support is ES5. I cannot use ES6 because of the my code runs in older browsers or something like that. So as a TypeScript developer, I have this flexibility that I can compile my application once to ES5 and once to ES6 using the tsconfig.json, which we'll be discussing later on, which is a very, very important tsconfig.json, how you would control the compilation phase of entire TypeScript. But yeah, but who else doesn't want the flexibility to compile to whatever version it is needed, right? So it has option to compile to whatever ECMAScript version. It also has the modular system of JavaScript, right? It also has the Java version of, and you can use it both on front end and back end, front end / back end. So it's not any restriction to use it only on back end or front end. You have the function overloading, you have constructors, all the object oriented programming language, right? So listing down all of the features which I personally felt are really useful for TypeScript. What else do you need? What other reasons you want, wherein you can have the power of JavaScript, you have a better code of readability, you have an option to convert to whatever JavaScript version you want, and you have a better code readability, you have structural scripts, and you also compatibility with ECMAScript is pretty clean, and more power added to JavaScript. So what else is missing in TypeScript that it is stopping from you to use it? But I am strictly saying, as long as your application is small or medium scale, TypeScript is not a good choice, because JavaScript is good enough, because the amount of code which you're writing is less. It means you can deal with it. But as the application size grows, if you think that your application is going to grow, then without any second thought, you can directly go for TypeScript, because you will have the power of JavaScript with good structure and all principles aligned with you in TypeScript. So this is the main reason why I would had used TypeScript, and I would recommend all of you to use it. And yeah, that's great.